How's it going, everyone? Your host, not as always, J Beard Stereo. Fuck you, I need a paycheck too. We're gonna start. The year is 1993, January 11th, Raw number 1. I'm not gonna cover too much history because you can go get that elsewhere. There's Wrestling Observer, there's books, and I'm not really here for the history. I'm here to just review and show comparatively how wrestling is back then versus now, and how someone with a modern wrestling mentality might view some of the old stuff. Because God knows you see a lot of the older mentality reviewing the newer stuff, so maybe it's fair to balance it out. I'm actually somewhere in between. I like older stuff, I like newer stuff, I'm a wrestling fan. So, start with Raw number 1. We open with Sean Mooney, who's their announcer at the time. He's in front of New York City, he's in front of this building in New York City, and he's doing this weird bumbling promo, similar to how I just bumbled. Here's the difference. I'm not paid millions of dollars, and I do this for like 13 people. But yeah, Sean Mooney blows his first few lines by bumbling. Like, I don't even remember the exact line, but just say it's like, "The wall is white." That was supposed to be the line. The wall is white? Like, you had one fucking job. The bit they're going throughout this entire show, because a lot of old school, well into the Attitude Era, well past that into the Ruthless Aggression Era, they tend to have a lot of starting segments that play all the way to the end, and that tends to taper out in today. Maybe because they've done a lot of them, and there's not many they can think of, but I don't know, it's disappointing. I like the show to have a continuity going throughout it, and when they do, even if it's bad, some of my favorite episodes in terms of modern Raws have been just that. With Dean Ambrose coming throughout the entire show, and even if it is just comedy, it's something that makes it feel continual, and it makes it flow better. But yeah, the one they're going for this week is Bobby Heenan can't get in, there's problems, he dresses as a bunch of people. It's going to be really terrible. Stay tuned. So they intro Rob Bartlett, who's going to be the commentator instead of Bobby Heenan. He took Bobby Heenan's job. This was building to like some weird feud that never happens. It's fucking awkward. It's really awkward. They don't even have the story down straight, but we'll get into that when we review it. The first one was dumb, as far as Bobby Heenan trying to get in. He was just as Bobby Heenan, just, "Hey, I'm Bobby Heenan, let me in." "No? Well, I'm Bobby Heenan." And that's it, and that was the segment. It was fine, it was dumb, wasn't that funny, but it was not funny. First match. This is the first match on any Raw, ever. This is the first Monday Night Raw of all time. What is the first match of the show? Because if you guessed Coco Beware versus Yokozuna, you blew my mind. I never would have fucking guessed that. Then again, like, Executioner was in, like, the first fucking WrestleMania. But then again, WrestleMania didn't matter at that time. That was a test. I mean, at this point, this was a big deal. And they made the opening match Coco Beware versus Yokozuna. A man who pretended to be Japanese despite being Samoan, and a man who pretended to have talent despite not. Macho Man is on commentary with Vince McMahon and Rob Bartlett, and Macho says that, and I quote, this is an exact quote, this is the greatest quote of commentary history. Yokozuna, quote, "can wrestle, but can't walk the beach." So they lock up, and Yoko is being Yokozuna. I mean, he's literally just, or as Mr. Fujio call him at one point in time, which we'll get to, Yokozuma. Worst fucking manager of all time. But they lock up a few times. He keeps tossing Coco Beware across the ring. They keep mentioning on commentary, like, Frankie, his bird, and how it's like, it's not around. Can't help but feel like Frankie probably died there. And even if he didn't, that was the thought that came into my head, so you probably could have done a better job covering. But yeah, Coco gets tossed around easily enough. Yokozuna looks really good here. He looks really good. Not physically, but like in terms of his actual, his actual size is used. Which, look at guys like Bad Luck Fale, who is going for fucking ring-out attempts as a giant man. It just doesn't, it feels weird. Back in the day, things made sense to a degree. Made sense. Yokozuna was being the big man as the fucking big man. There was no high-flying moves. Oh, moves so well for his weight. There was no count-out attempts. Oh, he's so intelligent despite... No, he just did what he did, and it worked. When he tosses Coco, by the way, Coco goes flying across the ring. Great selling by Coco, and that's probably his strongest suit, is his charisma and his selling, because, good God, every little bit of offense he got in this match was fucking terrible. 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 Coco finally hits a few drop kicks as offense, if you even want to call them that. The third one is dodged by Yokozuna. Yokozuna bounces him off the ropes, bounces off, hits the ground, leg drop. You think that's it, because, you know, leg dropping a big guy, or at least I did, because I guess I'm, at this point, programmed to think that the leg drop is every big man's finish. So he hits that, gets up, hits his finish, the Banzai drop, which I completely forgot was his finish. And yeah, he beats Coco Beware in the first ever match with Mr. Fuji as his manager. As a Japanese man who does sumo, he's Samoan. We then get, and this is still on the network, an awesomely 90s commercial. So nostalgic. It was... I've literally never been hit by a nostalgia ray that potent before. Just... You have the little squiggle lines. It literally looked like you took the backdrop for Saved by the Bell. Wow, that is dated at this point. I'm getting old. Second match of Monday Night Raw was the Steiner brothers. Rick and Scott Steiner versus the Beverley brothers. Have no idea who they are. They look like two fucking Executioner-style luchadors. Beverley brothers. You're lucky I even got that. Because back in the day, they didn't have lower thirds for your name and stuff like that. So I had no idea what their name was. Luckily, commentary was there. Which is something you will hear very rarely out of my mouth. So Steiner goes to lock up, but quickly shoots for the guy's ankle. And holy shit, this is when I realized it. There's a point in time where Scott Steiner becomes Scott Steiner. And it's not right now. This is not the same person. This is not the same human being I am looking at. It just isn't. I mean, in terms of emotionally, mentally, the mentally makes a lot of sense when you see some of the moves he took, but mentally, emotionally, physically, he looks different. I mean, everything about this man, you killed a man and replaced him. That's what happened here. You can't convince me otherwise. This is not the same Scott Steiner. Scott looked so fucking good here. Like, beyond the realm. Think of the best match Scott Steiner today could put out. Think about it. Really let's sink in. Really, you got it? Multiply that by 50, and that's what this was. This one move. Just the way he quickly shot for the guy's ankle, and oh my god, fakes out for the lockup, and then goes genius. And he moves so fucking well. My mind was blown here. I'm probably taking this to. I'm exaggerating probably slightly, because this just blew my fucking mind. Doink gets inserted into the crowd, and he gets insta-buried. He's doing this while the match is on. This is a big problem the first Raw has had. They interrupted all of their angles to set up other angles, so that the new setup angle is more interesting than the actual angle we previously had, and that goes on and on and on until nothing's interesting. Doink is in the crowd, screwing with people, having fun, yeah, being a clown. No, that wasn't a joke, literally. And he gets insta-buried. Literally, Vince McMahon on commentary. Vince McMahon on commentary. If it was one of the other two, fine. But Vince McMahon flat out goes, Dork the Clown. The other two go, I think it was Macho goes, Vince, I think it's Doink. So Vince just responds with, is it? With this nervous laugh, That's how I know it wasn't like, there's no way this was on purpose. This was a fucking accident. Rick gets in the ring, he tags in from Scott, hits some sloppy offense because that's sort of Rick's thing. I like Rick, but I've never been too into Rick's work. Scott tags back in, hits a belly-to-belly, so he basically hits the one move that he retains throughout his entire career. Looked, not even kidding, didn't look any better. Looked the exact same. Like, everything, he forgot his child's name, he forgot how to work a restaurant, he forgot how to breathe, all of that, forgot how to be nice. The one thing he didn't forget was how to exactly do his belly-to-belly suplex. Genius. Doink here was a clever point. Doink, the guy who was playing Doink understands the business, so when he sees this actual move happen in the ring, he's actually reacting. Like, he reacts like it's death. It's like, ooh, as a clown would, over-exaggerate. But he sells it, and that is gold. That is very... For an example, look at today. When a commentator sells a comeback, sometimes you get the Michael Cole, like, oh, the New Day is here. Cool. Completely deflates the entire thing. Reacting, not just the performers, but everyone around them reacting, matters so much more than people let on. And this is more proof right here. Because I didn't even care about the match. Doink had that reaction, and I was like, Scott Steiner's a fucking boss. And they hit their finish, an elevated bulldog, so you get it's like a reverse Doomsday, where you get the guy up in an electric chair. This time it's turned around instead of facing, and you get a bulldog instead of a clothesline. Yeah, pretty nice move. The first match was just okay. This was actually a good match, despite me not seeing most of it. So I'm sure it was actually a much better match than I even let on. starting to notice now, though. That's 2 squashes right back to back. Like, wasn't much of a fight from either of these people. But okay, I guess we're gonna notice a pattern this early. Moving on, Bobby Heenan, dressed as a woman, tries to trick his way into the arena. Not tries, actually. I'm gonna fix that now. He almost successfully does this. Sean Mooney on the... Okay, yeah, hey, wait a minute. Pulls the... Bobby Heenan actually got fooled. Genuinely. Wasn't like a, oh, Bobby, trying to fool. Genuinely was surprised that this was Bobby Heenan. This is a fucking cartoon. We get a decent promo for the Royal Rumble with Razor Ramon, except that Vince called him a, quote, Johnny come lately. Please, double check this. But isn't that fucking super out of date even for 93? But it's Vince, so you probably don't have to check it. I'm probably right. Regardless, doesn't matter. Razor, and I realize it now, his character is so, going back to the cartoon point, so over the top, so stereotypical. Literally saying Meng at the end of every... which is going to be really awkward if he were to ever to actually get in the ring with Meng. But whatever. So you're doing that. He's got the Meng thing going on. He's got the slicked hair. He's got the toothpick. Cuts this cool promo. For the time, he was really cool. Not gonna lie. Even now, he's got this swag about him that's just so sleazy and awesome. Sleazy in a good way. Vince at one point goes to pull the mic away. Like, he thought Razor was done, or he didn't like the answer. I don't know which it was. But he goes to pull the mic back to ask another question. And Razor, and you don't see any wrestler doing this shit now, Razor grabs his hand that he's pulling away, pulls it back, continues his point, and without missing a fucking beat, shoots Vince this look like, motherfucker, if you touch my mic again, I'm going to fucking Razor's Edge you into the crowd. And Vince let it happen and just sort of like, oh shit. That was it. It was a fucking perfect... He is such a badass. Nobody can get more badass, in my opinion, than Razor at this current time on this roster. Tatanka cuts a promo about his people and the world hunger, Headlock on Hunger. This is... I was going to say this was a bad promo for Headlock on Hunger. No, you know what? It is a bad promo. Because the next one that we get is actually so bad that it's so good. And that beats this one. That was so confusing. At this point, Adam pointed out that Tatanka looked exactly like Mark Wahlberg, but tan, and I couldn't unsee it. And now you can't either. Next match, we have Max Moon, who has one of the most amazingly terrible ring gear sets I've ever seen. Like, weird dreads with this mask that doesn't cover enough of his face to actually warrant a mask. Sorry, I don't know why. I just must have an allergic reaction to hypocrisy. But barely covers his face. The actual tights are super tight, spray on, almost Giant Gonzalez level terrible. Almost. No one's ever beating that. But just so bad. So fucking bad. He looked like he was going to shoot stuff from his wrists. Like in a comic book. Oh, it was bad. And he's versing Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels. The Intercontinental Champion. Max Moon. Sure. Michaels and Moon put a chain together that... It's how can I describe this? It's every single chain or beginning to a match today, but at the time, it felt so fucking ahead. And even if it wasn't, it just felt like better than it should have been. If that makes sense. It was just, whoa. You could see Michaels is Michaels. By the way, the chain was awesome. This was the best match on the show by leagues, and it was still simply a good match. Max is actually out wrestling Michaels for a lot of this, and Vince points that out. I thought that was a nice touch. You get Max, elevated. Rob on commentary, basically they come back from commercial, and Rob goes, over the break, you missed it, Michaels pulled a knife, and Vince just, like, sort of chuckles because it's one of the funniest possible things you could have said there. So he's just like, will you stop it? Was he Gorilla Monsoon? I just realized. Because Rob had a really funny, witty joke there, he then has to balance it out with what feels like the rest of the show doing one of the worst Mike Tyson impressions I've ever heard of my life. And the entire time, they're making fun of the fact that he just went to jail. Can you believe that this man worked with them, like, not even too many years later. Years later, though. Can you believe this? And by the way, for the record, this is the accent. This is a much better one than the one he's doing. The one he was doing was sort of like this. I mean, I say he did it for way too long, but it was also the entire thing I could focus on the entire time. So not only was it like the rest of the show, but it tainted and dragged down what was the only good match on this show. Fuck you, Rob Bartlett. Get a Royal Rumble promo where Fuji calls Yokozuna Yokozuma, as I've mentioned. Completely awful. Yokozuna bumbles, Yosh! 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 Actually started early at one point. Notice that one. That's something I caught the second time. So, yeah. This was awful. He talked over. You don't talk over one another in promos. Even if it's the idea of, like, yelling over the other guy, like with that Yosh idea. I get what you're doing there. Plan the Yoshes in between his parts, or do them at lulls. Because there was something he was trying to say that I couldn't hear because I saw a fucking Samoan Japanese liar going, Yosh! Yosh! into the camera for 20 minutes. Hacksaw gets a promo, he does his normal shtick and says he doesn't know if he'll win. Not even kidding. That's barely paraphrasing. He genuinely said, I'll try, but I don't know. to build up this match. You know, when people say that this time was a better time by, like, leagues, and I see stuff like this, I just have to think that you are nostalgic or a liar. Then we get the worst match I think possibly could have ended the show. The Undertaker versus Damian Demento. If Damian Demento is seen on Monday Night Raw more than 10 times past this, I will literally slap myself on the face on camera. Hard as I can. I'll write this down and put it on the wall behind me in case I forget. Not joking. I think he is one of the fucking worst. One of the worst. His character is terrible. I mean, what character? He's literally just like, I'm a weird guy who's sort of like, yeah, I'm slightly off. Look at this. I literally wrote down for this match, I'm not joking, this was terrible until the Tombstone. I hate Damian Demento. Why was this a main event? That's it. That's all I could write. Thankfully, the main event doesn't end the show, and they probably did this because it was such shit, and they knew it was going to be shit for a main event. Doink gets the show closer promo. He basically puts across, I'm just here to make myself laugh. I don't care if all these peons laugh. They don't know true comedy. I'm the comedy guy. I know comedy. I'll make myself laugh. And if it's at the expense of others, well, that's too damn bad. And this promo, I'm thinking, I'm like, this is a really good character. This is a really clever idea. I can't wait, and I know it comes up, can't wait for this guy to start torturing people because he finds it funny. This is a good character and a good arc. Unfortunately, they wasted on Crush, but we'll deal with that next Raw. The payoff for Bobby's joke is him being let in at the end of the show. You're finally allowed in, and he rushes in, and does he not have a watch? So, overall, the first Raw was actually pretty bad. Pretty awful. On the whole, I'd say that the first Raw was probably maybe a 5 out of 10. It was a pretty shit show. The fact that this got people excited and actually actually got people hooked onto the actual product and then dragged them along for a little while, I'm surprised this took off as well as it did. I'm going to say it myself. And let's check out right now to see if Episode 2 is any better. January 18th, 1993. Getting closer and closer to the Royal Rumble. And we'll hop right into it. We open with Rob Bartlett anticlimactically ripping up a picture of Bobby Heenan. And then out of nowhere, the Repo Man just nails Macho Man in the back in the wrestler shutdown switch. That's the setup for the show. Steals his hat. Repo Man, of all people, is Macho Man's first feud on televised WWF. You know, I've got nothing left. I've probably already said every negative I possibly fucking can that applies to this about other things. Let's just... At least it's something for Macho, right? Fuck it. I don't know how to care anymore. Terrific Terry Taylor versus Mr. Perfect. So you have Mr. Perfect versus Terrific. Terrific versus Perfect. It's like I'm a genius or something, goddamn! Mr. Perfect hits a gorgeous hip toss where he just pops his leg up to the side a little bit as he does it. It looks like it adds this little bit of torque, and this is what I mean. Perfect is literally only those little things. Everyone else is good. Everyone might be terrific. But perfection is those little things. Focus has shifted yet again. Out of the 4 or 5 matches in these 2 Raws, 1 or 2 matches actually got to play out. All the rest were interrupted by phone calls, things in the audience, interview, whatever, everything. They call Bobby the Brain Heenan, or rather, Heenan calls them. He flat out says, and I quote, this is a quote from Bobby Heenan, "Forget Mr. Perfect. Now, on to my point. You actually just said to the audience, who is going to listen to you, because that is commentary's job, to dictate what the audience should be focusing on, and for casual people. So you're telling them, don't focus on this match. Forget Mr. Perfect. So you know what? I will." Flair comes out, distracts Perfect, which is pointless because he's still going to win the match. Taylor hits a nice jumping knee, causing Perfect to spill to the outside. Flair beats on him from behind, which further should solidify that Perfect is losing. Guess what? He's not. This is only to set up a thing with them later. Actually could have been done in a much, much better way. And, yeah, Perfect Plex for the win, meaning the whole ordeal was annoying. And let's just finally actually move on. Hey, I could physically match where my brain was at. Bret Hart has an Ico Pro commercial where he unnecessarily points a lot. If you want to get big, you got to remember that Ico Pro is the best for you, because Ico Pro is for pros. And you want to be an Ico, so Ico Pro, Ico Pro, Ico Pro, Ico Pro. That was literally the commercial. I'm not fucking with you. Like, the words were not that. The message was, and the finger points, spot on. And then we get an old Macho Man Randy Savage Slim Jim commercial, which this just proved the Black Hole Charisma point, though, to be 100% fair. You look at Savage in this commercial and you're like, oh, I'm going to go buy Slim Jims. You look at fucking the Ico Pro one and you're like, yeah, I could deal without having finger aneurysms for the rest of my life. Paul Bearer and Undertaker cut a promo for Headlock on Hunger, and this is the greatest promo of all time. This is the one I mentioned earlier. Oh my god, this is amazing. Paul Bearer, from 2 minutes in, switches it from the Royal Rumble, the Royal 30 Bodies, switches it from that to what was it? Where was it? Oh yeah, Deaths in Somalia. Whoa, 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 you lost me. What? And then eventually Taker concludes this entire thing about, like, Headlock on, help Somalia, help the Headlock on Hunger, concludes this entire thing with, no one should have to die of hunger. The Undertaker! This was the weirdest, this is the greatest promo of all time, in the style that The Room is the greatest movie of all time. This was a train wreck, but when the train collided with whatever it collided with, money and gold flew everywhere. Marty Jannetty versus a jobber. I wrote a jobber because I genuinely could not, in the time given, get what his name was. This was an okay match. By the way, every match tonight really isn't that good. This is a much worse night for wrestling than the first. First match was okay. This match is going to be okay. The one after it is good, but not by much. Yeah. So, Jannetty throws around a jobber as Michaels steals focus on a call on commentary, yet again. By the way, just fucking stop these. You did 2 a show, and that's overkill. This is terrible. This is not how you do this. I get you only have an hour. You probably could have had them on the next show, if that's the case. Have Michaels talk about the match he saw with Marty last week. There's no reason he needed to be on the phone now. Marty hits some arm drag, suplexes, a wrist lock, just some basic offense. There's nothing too crazy here, but Marty's pretty good. It's clear that he's missing something, but he's really good. His basics are great. He plays to the crowd well. Everything is fine. There's just something about him that's just off, and I don't know what it is yet. Maybe after reviewing more, I'll find out what that is. Shawn assumes Sherry will pick him because Sherry was their manager, and they're doing this whole split-up thing, and okay, so which one's she going to choose? They're going so heavy on Michaels that I have to, like, Michaels thinking that it's going to be him. I have to assume that it's Jannetty. We recap WWF Superstars, a show we didn't see, where Doink hits Crush with a fake arm. This was in between the original, I'm assuming the original Raw show, and now, the last one we reviewed. So, now this is setting up a whole feud between the two of them because of a lead fake arm, which, by the way, as soon as he came out, it was the most fucking obvious thing in the world that it was fake. Wow, I also want to point out the level of real to me here. Oh, it's still real to me. It certainly was. I mean, nobody knew it was, nobody cared about, like, the, It wasn't real. People knew it wasn't real. That's not my point. But god damn, if this one girl in the crowd didn't actually start fucking tearing up, or like she like cupped her mouth like at Doink the Clown hitting Crush with a fake arm. First of all, the crowd didn't know that it was lead, so take that out of the equation. A fake arm! Sean Mooney catches the Repo Man outside, to which Repo Man starts addressing Macho in the like, I have to say it, I have to make the comparison, he was literally like a Speedy Gonzalez character. Just like, I got you! I got you! He's just so hypery and jittery, and he would just jump every few seconds and just, I'm gonna steal your stuff! Weirdest shit in the world. Genuinely the weirdest. Probably one of the worst characters in existence. Basically, I'm not kidding, Macho Man basically says, it's a date, don't be late. He makes a date. Like, I get the implication there, but he literally says the line, it's a date, don't be late. Tito Santana versus Ric Flair in what was the best match in these last 2 nights. Ric Flair, Jesus, Ric Flair, best of all time. All you can say. There's no argument that needs to be made, there's nothing that needs to be shown evidence-wise, it's clear as day. Man was God. The man was God of wrestling. So, this match has no winner, because it was DQ. Was it DQ or was it a no finish? No, yeah, it was a BS finish. But, A, it's the first time I've seen this on this show, because it's the second episode overall. It didn't happen on the first. Fine. So, you know, this is new at least. You protected both guys. Both guys were really over. Santana, way more over than I could have ever feasibly thought he would be. So, you know, everything was good. All that worked. Here's the thing. Normally a distraction finish or a BS finish or a DQ, however you want to do it, no winner is usually no winner. And that includes the crowd. Nobody wins when no one wins. That's the best way I can put that. Tito doesn't protect Flair's neck on a slam, and Flair almost lands flat out on the top of his head. Luckily, he gets just barely over. That was a horrifying 2 seconds for me. As always, this is a typical Flair match. He sells for 80% of the match, taking body blocks, slams, meaty clotheslines. Santana hits punches in the corner. Flair eye pokes to get out of it. Flair does his big spot, you know, the classic Ric Flair, I'm old and I'm covered in blood. You're not covered in blood. Give it 5 minutes. Tito fires up, hits a jumping forearm. Flair dodges the second attempt at a jumping forearm, to which Tito flies to the outside. Dramatically. Probably more dramatically than the Flair bump Flair took before. Perfect enters, they do a pull apart, him and, you know, Flair obviously outside, which was set up earlier and further sets up their feud for the future. Decent match ending in a no contest BS finish that actually doesn't take away from it. I thought everything was set up well. Maybe it's also because it was a payback spot where it was like, well, you fucked me earlier, so, you know, fuck you. Maybe, I don't know. No, because there's times now where that happens and it's not good. Weird. Weird that it works, but it works. So, after the commercial, the fight continues, and Flair cuts a promo on Perfect, tells Vince to not talk to him, which I thought was fucking brilliant. It's similar to that whole Razor Ramon pull the mic back thing. You're above the fucking announcer. You're above the commentator. You're above the man that hires you. The only reason you listen to him is because he hires you. It doesn't feel like that anymore. It feels like everyone's scared of Vince. It feels like everyone's scared to put their opinions on the commentary, probably because they're tenured and, you know, directly tied to Vince. This felt like these people were bigger than the people they worked for, the people they worked with. That's what we're missing. Well, part of what we're missing. We're missing a whole laundry list of things. Flair yells, giving himself an aneurysm, saying WWF isn't big enough for both of us. And then he does this classic Flair walk away and just comes back. Next week, I want Perfect! Sets up in a fucking near drunken rage, assumedly drunken rage, that he wants next week's match to be a loser leaves WWF match. Says, ending his entire promo, after hugging a girl in the audience. That's I took a second because I needed to remember that. Literally stops the promo, turns around, hugs the girl, comes back because, you know what, it's Ric Flair. He's getting some. Comes back and finishes with, "You're not mad enough!" Perfect then enters as Ric Flair aneurysms off screen. They did that thing essentially like back in the day where someone would walk on, do their promo, leave, other person would walk on. Just so weird. Like, was it fucking taking laps around the ring while Flair was doing it, they were just pulled apart. They were anywhere in the vicinity of one another. They should be fighting. Promo from Perfect, basically just accepting the match proposal. Macho hypes up his match for next week with Repo Man. Repo Man deflates that hype by simply existing. And, yeah. Repo's robbed Bartlett's car, and Savage swears revenge for the car and hat. This is an awful program. Now I'm going to get into why this is an awful program. That's actually it for the show. So, this is an awful program between Repo Man and Macho. Because, let's just... You know what? This is the best way I can put this. Let's just break down what this is about. Repo Man jumps Macho Man. Macho Man gets up, says, alright, he got the better of me, I wish we could fight man to man, but whatever, hey, I'll let it go, I'm a bigger man. Realizes his hat is gone. Starts realizing more and more throughout the show that I got punked, and he has my hat. Then Rob Bartlett's car gets stolen, whatever, repoed, whatever. So now he swears revenge for someone who's not him, and arguably doesn't, like the guy too much. It's not like they're friendly on commentary. They've had, like, one weird moment in the first episode that was like not like a spat, but it's clear they didn't get along well. Maybe didn't know each other. So it's not like you have a connection there where it's like, oh, you stole my best buddy's car, how dare you? No, it's just a car. A car was stolen from someone I work with. Sorry for your loss. I don't give a shit. And my hat's gone. This Repo Man and Macho Man are having a feud over Macho Man's hat and a schmuck's car. This has to be. Like, I'm going to have people argue it, and you're probably right to some degree, but to some degree, I don't think it's fair to say that this is, without a doubt, I think it is fair to say, that this is without a doubt on par with a shampoo commercial level fucking feud setup. This is fucking terrible. This is fucking awful. Yes, at the very least, this had a guy jump another guy, so it is better. But still. A hat and a car. Macho comes out with different colored hats and different hats and suits and gear multiple times a night sometimes. Keep the hat. I don't give a fuck. Keep the guy's car that I barely know. I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna stay on commentary and make tons of money. This feud is fucking stupid. More people should be on this predictions game if you think you understand booking and wrestling, if you just want to have some fun, if you maybe want to win a title. Go ahead and leave your name in the comments below. If you're going to do one thing, do that. Even if it isn't that, comment. Have some sort of input on the conversation here, because that's what this show is, whereas other wrestling shows tend to be more of a teaching thing. I want this to be more of a discussion thing. So, leave your name in the comments, leave an opinion in the comments, and if you can, like and subscribe. The most important thing would be the comments. And, yeah, just remember that friends and family are absolutely temporary, but the Bullet Club, well, the Bullet Club is for life.